Sorry, I forgot to push record. I'm recording now.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Sorry, Dana. Keep talking.
keep talking.
Okay. We got to this little town that was called Minnesota. And the Russians came from the east because according to the
Dana,
Amen.
yeah, there you go. I think the volume is going a little bit when you turn your head. So you try to turn your head towards the computer, Dana.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's a little better.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, we got to this little town and the Russian came. And I saw the Russian army in town. And they were very friendly actually. They were showing some communist movie in the town, in the middle of the town hall. And I remember the children were very excited. Here are the soldiers. All the boys wanted the soldiers, and the soldiers were very friendly and were, talking to the people. And then at that point, a lot of Jewish people went east, crossed the border, which wasn't very, very, very strict at that point. So there was a lot of people, and some of our family crossed the border to Soviet Union at that time. Well, we didn't. At this point, we had enough of it, and my mother started being hysterical. We're saying the children are getting sick because we were eating green apples, and of course we got sick. And we went back to Warsaw. So this was the very, very beginning of war. In Warsaw, the other thing that I remember was main train station. The train station where people were trying to get out of Poland, and it was like the southeast border to Romania. So many people were just running to this train and trying to board the train and get to out of Poland to Romania and then go west. Well, we tried, but again, there was big crowd of people. We didn't succeed. And we came back home. And at home, I had another surprise. My mother's sister, who used to be in the West Poland, she was at the time she was in the problem with the progress of moving from one city to another because my uncle got a new job. So they were moving from Poznań to Toruń. Poznań was just on the west border and Toruń was a little bit more inland. And they never made it. The highway started being bombed, and when we came home, Aunt Ada and Uncle Michał and two children were in our apartment. So this is how I met the family that I didn't know before. I didn't know before because I don't know if Yvona was saying anything. My mother was one of 7 daughters, and 4 out of 7 daughters married the Christians. Of course, Grandpa was very upset about it and cut all the contact with those daughters. But we met Aunt Ada and all her family in our house because my mother was keeping all this contact with all those sisters that were out of the Jewish community. So this was the first year of war when we spent with extended family. But then at that point, the Germans started really tightening. All the Jews are supposed to move with. There were all kinds of things. We were supposed to wear the armband with the Star of David on it. And we could only live in certain part of the city. At the very, very beginning, our house was on the edge of the Jewish quarter. So we weren't dislocated, but on the other hand, her family had to get out because they weren't Jewish. And at that point, I couldn't understand this whole thing. I was 9 years old, grew up with absolutely non-religious family. There was no religion of any kind in our house. And I couldn't understand. What about it? On the other hand, Irka, they are not Jewish and we are Jewish. What is it? Why we are Jewish? Why we have to move and be somewhere else? Why they have to move? Anyway, what happened? They rented the apartment out of the Jewish quarter, and my nanny, that I loved very much, Janina, went with Aunt Alla, and we stayed in our apartment. At that point, in our apartment, after the first year, there was only one room. Should I continue?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just continue.
Okay, so this was the first year of war. The first winter of war was very cold. And of course, there was no coal. There were shortages, started being shortages of everything. And the family was standing next to the big ceramic stove, trying to keep warm. And I was trying to put whatever I had on during the winter. The winter was much colder than usual. The first 2 winters in the war were extremely cold in Poland. So this was it. We were still in our apartment the first year. After the first year, there was new German tightening of the rope. The Jewish quarter was making smaller. Our apartment was beyond at this point. We had to move. So we moved to one room on Nalewki Street, more in the Jewish quarter. And we were crowded in this one room. I mean, the 4 of us, my parents, my brother, and one of my grandfathers, my paternal grandfather was with us at that point. So we were all in this one room. And of course, everything started getting hard because Germans at first decided to starve the ghetto. Whatever they put all the Jews in the ghetto, raised the big wall, there was big brick wall with barbed wire on the top and crushed glass on the top, and was pretty well, it was not that easy to go through.
Yeah.
This food smuggling was still on, and there was mostly the children who were doing smuggling food, because the children could get to some kind of little nooks and crannies within this wall. They were all those children who were coming through the openings down on the bottom of the wall. There was opening for the water to move. Little skinny children could get through. And those were the smuggling. Of course, the food was very expensive because the first idea was to starve the Jewish community. Well, we were in very, very special situation because we had the family and a lot of friends on the Aryan side. Most of the Jewish people were sort of maybe more Jewish than we were. We had more contacts with Polish population because of my aunts, my family. So even with this hard, the food was extremely expensive because everything had to be smuggled under the threat of death. Somehow, I spent 2 years in ghetto, and I can say that within 2 years, I wasn't completely starved. We were pretty undernourished. We did have beans were smuggled. We had some beans that were smuggled. The dark bread, the ration bread, dark black bread, the ration bread. But there was absolutely no protein. We didn't have milk, meat, dairy. This was absolutely no. There was nothing like that. The strangest thing that I say from now, this is what I can see now in the extremely crowded place, because the Jewish people were crowded in the place where there was one family, there were 4 families. There was no plague of rats. And this sort of can tell you something. There was nothing moving. There was no rats. I remember one day there was something, at that time there were still horse-drawn wagons and horse-drawn carriage going on the streets. Some horse was died, killed on the street. Within probably less than an hour, there was nothing left. People were just grabbed it. This is one I remember. We had meat for dinner because my mother somehow, through all kind of money and money and
Dana, can you tell us a little bit about the school in the ghetto?
okay, there was another story.
Yeah.
Germans decided, according to the German light, Jews were supposed to be killed. They're not supposed to kill, supposed to educate the population that's supposed to be killed. So there was no schooling whatsoever for Jewish kids. They were only 6th grade for the Polish kids outside of the ghetto, and nothing more than 6th grade for the Polish kids. But Jews likes to have their children educated. So there was all kinds of secret schools, came like mushrooms. I somehow got in one of them. There was a teacher, Mr. Zenon Epstein. I still remember him. He was sort of short, squat, and completely bald. We called him Bald Mountain. This was the kids' talk. What's the Bald Mountain is coming? Anyway, he was a fantastic teacher. He could get those kids. He was running 5th and 6th grade. This is what he told my mother. We don't have 4th grade. I can take her to 5th. If she will make it, she will make it. I will help her a little bit. So I started 1, 2, 3, and then 5.
Yes.
And I remember the school. This was my friends in school. I remember I made friends. We were doing all kinds of strange things. Of course, the books were forbidden. There was that sentence of being caught with a school book. But still we had books. We had books. We didn't have any kind of school material. So all that was pencils and pen papers that were used and used and used as much as they could. And Mr. Epstein was very dedicated and absolutely astonished teacher. Within the 2 years in ghetto, which I was in 5th and 6th grade, I was supposed to be the 3rd and 4th, but I learned more than probably the 4 next years. He was a fantastic teacher. And then I remember one thing, I met him after. And I have to tell this meeting. This was after the war. We were out, my mother was working. My mother was working as bookkeeper at some point at the Jewish committee. And we were coming there for dinners because there was food. I came one day in midday, and all of a sudden I saw my ghetto teacher. Of course, I started screaming, "Mama, Mama, Mama, Mr. Epstein, Mr. Epstein." Well, he saw us, he was greeted us like a family. He lost the whole family. Whole of his family was killed. And he felt that, me and my brother, we were some kind of contact with the previous life. He was many times in our house after, and he really liked us very much. He loved my brother. My brother was very, very smart. He was the little genius, a little family genius, and he really, as a teacher, he recognized the brain. So he liked my brother and me. This was back in 40s and maybe early 50s.
Yeah.
We saw him few times. I know that he emigrated, and I don't know where he emigrated to.
Yeah.
I wish I could find him more. I wish I could see him, because it was the link with my previous life.
Mhm.
And what else I can tell you? We were kids, 10, 11, maybe 12. We didn't have toys. Later here, somebody asked me the question, what kind of toys you have when you were in the ghetto? I was completely astonished. Toys? I didn't have any toys. You didn't have any toys.
Yeah. So one thing that, did y'all understand what she said about if they had been caught going to school, it would have been a death sentence.
Yeah.
And if they had books, they were caught with books, they would have been killed on the spot. Can you imagine going to school and worrying about that? If you were caught, that you would die for that? Isn't that amazing? And one thing, can you tell him a little bit about how you got out of the ghetto,
Yes,
Dana?
of course, 1942. In the summer, that was right, summer 42.
Yeah. So,
As you know from before, I had family on the Aryan side. I have any friends on the Aryan side. My parents were pretty, they had family friends and family. And when 1942, there was on the walls announcement that everybody is supposed to come to a certain point of the railroad station to be relocated. Some people were so down, so starved, so upset. Many people went for this relocation site. And of course, everybody knows what happened. There was Auschwitz. People were just plainly killed. My father knew a little bit, or I don't know if he knew or if he sensed it, but he was telling everybody, don't go, do anything, don't go. But yet some people were so starved that they went. And what happened? There was the railroad station, there were the cattle cars. People were packed in the cattle cars and went to concentration camp. And everybody knows what happened later.
Mhm.
They killed in the gas chambers. Well, of course, my father decided we are not going. We contacted the family, the Aunt Ada, and there was another my mother, two sisters were on the Aryan side. The other one, they had little house on the outskirts of Warsaw, in the village of Legionowo, a little bit of northeast of Warsaw. Of course, the family helped us. I was smuggled out of the ghetto, and I remember the day like today. This was September 42, very warm day. My mother packed as kind of clothing as she could. So I probably have two dresses and was absolutely sweat. And the last thing, we went to this place where people were supposed to come together to be deported. So we were there, and somebody was supposed to take us from the other side. He didn't show. So we were standing there, a lot of consternation. And somebody come to my father, says, you want to smuggle those two kids out, don't you? And my father said yes. Now, he probably had to be very brave and very desperate, because he knew perfectly that we are never going to make back home. And I remember the day, the guy, that's what I remember, being 11 years old, was very handsome. Tall, blonde, very handsome guy. He took me in one hand, my brother in the other hand, and we are going 8 people abreast through the gate. And we are just going. He, at the beginning, when he gave my father the price, and my father says, I don't have that much money. And he looked at the big gold watch that my father had. They called it onion watch at that time. He said, I will take this. So my father just took the watch, gave it to the guy, and we are going. And we're going through the gate with the Gestapo on the gate. And I see this guy putting this gold watch in the German hand, and we are going through, just like this. We came to the other side, and the guy said, okay, kids, you're probably hungry, let's go have breakfast. Sounds good. We went to some kind of little coffee shop that I remember that you were coming down on the stone step. You know, all these years, and those are the things that you remember.
Yeah.
I remember that he put us at the table, and we got tea, and we got the hard rolls with ham. This was something like you had this heaven in your mouth. Hard rolls with ham. I didn't see something like this for many years, for 2 years in ghetto, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have any meat in the ghetto.
Yeah. No bread like that in the ghetto.
No bread like this. The bread was dark bread, what we call with sawdust in.
Yeah.
So 40 years later, my brother at that time was 6 years old. 40 years later, we talk about it, and I asked my brother, do you remember anything from this day? And he said, yes, I remember how the rolls with him.
At 6 years old, that's what he remembered.
Oh, this is what you remember.
Yeah, of course. Made a big impact on you.
And before we left, my father said,
I think, yeah, we're losing the audio just a little bit. Again, I don't know it.
We haven't moved.
Yeah, say something again.
I'll bring the computer closer.
Okay.
Is it
I think
better?
I think it's better now.
my father told me in the last moment, remember, Janina will wait for you at the gate of the park that we always call Krashinsky Park, under where there is a bus stop there.
Uh-huh.
This is what I remember. So I went with this guy. I told him where we going. And at some point, we are close to this gate to the park. I look out and there was the big apartment house on my right. And I told this guy, I remember that my father said, don't let him to the on other's house. Lose him on the way. Because he wouldn't know.
Didn't trust
He
him,
didn't
yeah.
trust
Yeah, I
him.
didn't trust him.
Boy that came out. So I remember this from my father. I was 11. I was pretty smart girl at that time. I saw Janina on the bus stop.
Mhm.
Our eyes met, and I told to the guy, that's it. It is this house. We are going out. There was the big apartment house. I took my brother by hand. We went to the front staircase. I went up the stairs, looked down, saw him standing. Finally, he turned around and left. When I saw him leaving, I went down and met Janina on the bus stop.
Mhm.
And she told me this was something. I met my beloved nanny. I knew if I met Janina, everything would be fine now.
Yeah.
It was almost like in my mind, if she's here, everything will be good.
Yes.
And she told me, okay, you know the way to Aunt Ada's house? Okay, you will go one way on Feta Street, close to old grandpa house, and I will tell Jurek, my brother, different way.
Yeah.
So I marched exactly the way she said. I went to Aunt Ada's house, climbed on the second floor, rang the bell, and that was it. And I met my brother and Janina and all the family. This was it.
Yeah.
This was the most important day in my life. We made it. In the evening, there were telephone communication, not quite legal, but they were. I remember that Aunt Ada was calling my family, and I remember what she said. She said, both packages came fine. And both packages was me and my brother.
Yeah. So that was big. Very big.
This was big. This
Yeah.
was the main thing that I remember.
So, Dana, one of the things that I think is really interesting is that you changed names several times
Oh, yeah.
during the Holocaust. Can you tell us what your names were? Because your original name was not Dana. So what was your first name?
They call me Lilka at home. So the first time when we went, our first place, we went to the country, and I had my birth certificate on my cousin's name, but they still call me Lilka.
Mhm.
But officially you were
Officially, I was
Alicia.
Alicia, yeah.
Alicia. So
Alicia
from
Alicia.
Linka to Alicia.
Alicia Małaczyńska, but at home I was still Lilka.
Okay.
This was the first place, and I was there from, I think, mid-September till the spring of 42.
Okay.
Spring of 43.
Okay. 43.
43, yeah. I was there half a year. My brother was there shorter time because the people were very afraid because he was a boy. And then there was something German, there was a lot of underground in that area where this village was. It was in southeast part of Poland. And Germans retaliated. Whenever some underground, some partisan blow up train, there were trains going with guns, with ammunitions to the Eastern Front, all the trains that were going to the Eastern Front. Well, the partisan, the underground, were blowing the trains.
Yeah, blowing up the trains.
Every time something happened like this, Germans retaliated. They put some village that was close to the railroad. They will round up all the people in the village in some barn and set the barn on fire. So many villages just got killed, eradicated at that time. Something happened like this in one of neighboring village, and the people who have me got really scared. I remember one night we spent in the woods because there was some kind of gossip that next time our village is going. So we spent the night in the woods. They decided that, okay, they are going to keep me for a little while longer, but they didn't want both of us. So Uncle Emil came and got Jurek, my brother.
Yeah.
So he was there actually maybe 2 months. I was there almost half a year because I went there in September, I left in March 42.
Yeah. So then when you went to the orphanage, what was you got another name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to a Catholic
It was
orphanage.
Alicia Małaczyńska. When I went to the orphanage, I became Danka
Okay.
Woźniak at that time. I got there was the whole during World War II. The whole system of producing false certificates. You could actually go to there was one big Polish market, and you knew that there was this corner of the market, there is some kind of part, and you can get the good certificate. So my family got me different certificate, supposedly much better, because this was the real
Yeah. So,
birth certificate of somebody who was dead.
okay. So you became somebody that had already passed
And
away.
somebody else who actually was dead. And I became Danka Woźniak at that time. And I changed later a little more, but I became Danka till the end of my life because I'm still Danka.
Yep. You're still Danka.
I still keep the name, probably because I really didn't like this little cat.
Yeah.
Not that this is good name for the dog and not for the girl. So I was very happy with Danka. And I sort of grew up in this name and grew up with this name.
Yeah.
So this was it. And the half a year I spent in the orphanage. And now what I remember from this orphanage, what I remember from later day, I was not the only one Jewish kid that was saved in the Catholic land orphanages. I have the friend in Cambridge, and she was saved in the orphanage to a different one, the Southeast Poland. And I know there was many Jewish kids that were saved.
Yeah.
So I was, at this point, I became one of the orphans, Danka Woźniak. And actually, the strange way, I was feeling pretty good there. First of all, among all those orphans, I think there were most of them were real orphans.
Yeah.
But there were a few of them like me. I felt pretty good. I was among the girls my age. The way it was at that time, my family had to support the orphanage.
Yeah.
A little bit. Of course, not by money, because but they were supposed to come so much flour, so much sugar, so much this every month. And the orphanage, we didn't have much food. There was no meat, there was no dairy. We were definitely protein deficient,
Yeah.
but we were alive. And I was among the girls my age. And I felt actually pretty good there.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the book, you talk about how much you actually liked being Catholic,
Like what?
that you liked being Catholic.
Oh, yeah, I did. I liked being one of the girls in the orphanage. Finally, I'm one. Finally, I can identify with the group.
Yeah.
I am not the oddball. I don't have to hide. I didn't have to hide.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably was many, many more girls, Jewish girls there.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one, but of course we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So this was a nice, good time in my life.
And then Dana, you had to leave the orphanage because they were tightening.
Okay.
And they were nervous about you being there at the orphanage. So then where did you go to?
Okay, there was one day in 42, in 43 already.
43. Yeah.
In the fall, Gestapo came to the orphanage, got one of the girls and left. And of course, you know perfectly what happened.
Yeah.
Somebody spilled the beans and the girl was just disappeared. My family got scared, and this was the end of my being the orphan in the orphanage.
Yeah. Yeah.
After this, okay.
Yeah. So Dana, now we're going to let some of the kids ask questions.
Yeah.
So they're going to come up one at a time so you can see them and ask their question. Okay.
Of course.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, who has the number one card? Where's your phone? Oh, do you have a question?
Okay. Come on. Come on, Anthony. All right, Dana, this is Anthony. Hey, can you see?
Hi, Anthony.
Hi.
So my question is, how many family or friends have you lost during the?
So he wants to know how many family and friends you lost during the Holocaust.
Okay. My father was one of 9 siblings. Only 2 of them survived Holocaust.
Mhm.
My father died. My father was killed. He was killed in the middle. But the 2 of them, I have one, my father's brother. The family crossed the Bug River and went to Soviet Union. Actually, he was connected with the Polish underground, and Stalin didn't like it. And he spent the rest of the war in Gulag, in the Arctic Circle, chopping wood. But after the war, he came back. So
Yeah.
this was him and the youngest sister who got under a false name, just like me.
Yeah.
Out of 7, there were 2 survived.
And your grandfather,
My grandfather was dead.
yes,
My grandparents, both of them were dead.
yeah,
Died.
both of them
My
died.
father's family, out of 7 siblings, 2 survived.
Yeah,
My
But-
father died. He got killed. Actually, there was some kind of, almost I would say, mistake. The Gestapo came to the place where he was and was looking for somebody else. And he just was in the wrong time, in the wrong place. And he was killed. And from his siblings, 2 survived. One in the Gulag in Siberia, and one here
Wait.
hidden like me.
Dana, what about on your mother's side?
On my mother's side was different because my father had 7 children, and in this is 9 children, 7 girls, and 4 older, 4 also 4 out of 7 girls married Christians. 2 ended in France and 2 in Poland. The 2 in Poland helped us.
Right.
All those. So actually there was 1 sister that died, 2. Then there was one of the brothers survived and the other died in the Holocaust. There were 2 or 3 that died in Holocaust on my
Okay.
mother's family.
Okay.
And of course the grandparents.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
What is your question?
Hi, my name's Cutter. As a result of all that you experienced during the Holocaust, both during the Holocaust and since, are you still optimistic about the future?
So Dana, I know that one of the things that we've talked about recently was what's going on in the Ukraine and how much that has bothered you, because it reminds you a lot of what the Holocaust was like. But I also know that we've also talked about how you talked about how much good there was in people, and that made you very optimistic. So would you say that you're still optimistic for the future?
Well, I hear over and over that Polish population is very anti-Semitic. I am the proof that they are not. That I am very optimistic. I say people are good. People are, I think that there is a lot of good people. Of course we had Gestapo. Of course we had, but then if you think that people had to risk their own family, their own life and the whole family life to keep the kid like me, and yet there were few kids like me survive, you could see how you can be optimistic.
Yeah. Thank you, Cutter.
I wanted to name I will change names later, but my first name was People Are Good.
People are good. Yeah. Okay. Can you
With
want
all
to?
the things that happens, people are good. Or they are good people in the world.
Did you form friendships in the ghetto or camp?
Did I do what?
She asked if you formed friendships in the ghetto.
In the ghetto, yes. And somehow all I can say, I never saw my friends again. When I was in this secret school, I had few friends. But when they closed the ghetto, when they liquidated the ghetto, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I lost the contact and I never saw them again. And the only thing I can hope that some of them survive.
Yeah.
this we
But you just
hope.
don't know.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. They're all coming in on their knees. Can you see? Can you tell? Okay. What's your question?
Hello, my name is Lucas. How did you start your life again after the Holocaust?
How did I start my life again? Well,
Yes.
I get together with my mother and my brother. This was another thing, because 1944, there was uprising in Warsaw. And the people who had my brothers went to the country, and me and my brother somehow connected and gone back to Warsaw. And we knew where the summer house of those people that had my brother was. So anyway, we found them, we found my brother. And of course, my father was dead. And as far as my other family, the ones that were Christian, because my mother's family were Christianized, most of it. So I had few of them, two of my mother's siblings survived. Out of my father, there was only 2 out of 7
Yeah.
that survived.
So, yeah, one of the things that she talks about in the book was how excited they were after the war. They went into the country in Poland and had like a holiday together, just enjoying the fact that they were still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of a celebration of sorts. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Wade. My question was, how do you feel about Germany and Germans today?
You know, after World War II, I had such mixed feelings. I couldn't take, for me, German was always this Nazi in Nazi uniform, this Gestapo on the ghetto wall. But then I was grown up, I started working, I met more other Germans. I made big friendship with a girl. I was working in Philadelphia in medical school, and she came from Germany. And she was working with me in the lab. We became very good friends, and we are friends till now.
Yeah.
I try not to talk about, and she knows perfectly what happened during World War II. We just not talk about it.
Yeah, and she says she was born in Poland because
This was the other thing. Her parents went, okay, her father during World War II was running some food, some boots factory. They were making boots for the German army.
Mm.
This was her father, and she was born in Poland actually, because this factory was in Krakow. So she was always saying, I made Barbara because I was born in Krakow, and this is very Polish name.
Yeah. Thank you, Wade. Okay.
Hello, my name is MJ. My question is, how did the Holocaust influence your faith?
your faith.
Yeah, your faith.
My
Do you?
faith?
Yes.
I don't know. All I can say, I am pretty much agnostic. I am not religious whatsoever. I feel if God looks at what he did, what he created, I don't think he likes it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I am pretty much agnostic.
Yeah.
However, it is not quite. My daughter is pretty much religious. So
Yes. I've prayed with your daughter, so I know that.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Questions?
they wanna ask?
We have one back there. Okay, we have one more question.
sure.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kaden, and my question was, what was your life like before the Holocaust happened?
Before the Holocaust, when I was a little kid,
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
we were sort of upper middle class family. My father had pretty good business. We live in a nice apartment. We were pretty happy. We had a lot of friends, a lot of Polish friends, and some Jewish friends.
Yeah.
I
you-
was pretty, a little girl, an upper middle class family, so I was
You were
pretty
going to
happy
school.
going to school.
In fact, you talked about the fact that you were pretty y'all were very well off and you didn't really lack for anything, right?
Well, yeah, before I said my father had pretty good business. We were in the upper wealthy, but we were pretty well done, pretty well.
Mhm.
I didn't lack of anything.
So that's all of the questions. The only other thing that I really wanted to say that I thought would be interesting is Dana, when you were allowed to go back into Warsaw after after the war had ended and stuff, can you just tell the kids a little bit about like what it looked like?
Okay, this was my big thing. I knew Warsaw. I loved the city. I was here and there. I was in the orphanage in the one part of the city. I lived before in the other part of the city. We were in the parks and in the city. And after World War II, we decided when we came and found my brother, I wanted to go back to Warsaw. And this was my biggest shock because in this little village, Włochy, they were enterprising people who had trucks. So she said, for a small fee, I can take you to Warsaw and I will drop you in the main intersection. I went by the truck. I was dropped in the main intersection in the city. And I didn't know where I am. The places where they were main thoroughfare in the city, they were nice houses. There was nothing. I got out of the truck and I was in the middle of rubble. In the middle of there was no houses. You didn't know where the house stand and where the street was, because this was one solid place of rubble. And there was a girl that was taking the same truck with me, and she told me before that her brother is somewhere in the army. She told me where he is. And do I know where it is? And I said, oh, yes, I do. Can you take me this? Okay. Well, I got out and I didn't know where I am. And I figured out I'm supposed to take her to the place where her brother is in the army barracks, and I have no idea where I am now, and I am in the middle of Warsaw. And then all of a sudden I saw very far something that looks like ruin, something, a lot of bent metal. And I figured out that this must be the place where it used to be the big power plant, close to the river. So I took this girl and we hopped against the ruin, just from one pile of rubble to the other, just trying to get through this metal ruin. And I was right, this was the ruins of the Polish big power plant. And once I got there, I went in the outer street along the river and I got her to the place where her brother should be. But unfortunately, she didn't find it because he was relocated the day before to some different place. But I feel very proud of myself. I did it.
Yeah. Kelly, if you saw the movie The Pianist, if you saw the movie The Pianist, and when he's playing, singing, he's on top of those ruins. And there was a guy, I can send you the link, Henry Cobb, C-O-B-B.
Yeah.
And he was an American architect who went to Poland, I think in 1945 or 1946, after the war ended, and he took photos, and being an architect, and it's incredible looking at his pictures. They're available online. I can send you the link.
Okay. Sure, and I'll share that with the teachers for the kids to look at.
Yeah.
This was the other thing that I wanted to say, why it happens like this. Because Polish underground decided that they are going to schedule the uprising and greet the the army that's coming from the east,
Oh, yeah.
already organized. Now, of course, Stalin didn't like it.
Yeah.
He led the German to squash the uprising. So the uprising in Warsaw that started in August 1st, and between August 1st, now the Warsaw was liberated in 45 in January 17th. So between, maybe not August 1st, but between September 44 and January 17th, 45, German had time to destroy the city.
Yeah.
They decided that they are going to punish the Polish population for scheduling the uprising.
Yeah.
They were going from one block to another, and they were dynamiting one block systematically after another. Warsaw was not bombed.
Yeah.
It was dynamited one block after another.
Yeah. That's
is how-
crazy to think about. Yeah. Well, ladies, I think that we can definitely say we appreciate your time, and I'll turn the kids so y'all can see it. Thank you so much, Dana and Yvona, for your time. And I have the book here. I'm gonna donate a copy to the library here for the kids to
Sure.
check out. Okay, all
Okay,
right. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kelly.
thank you, Kat.
Bye.
Bye.